remarks from the acting NIFA director, Dr. Dion Toombs.
Hello, and welcome to NIFA Listens, Investing in Science to Transform Lives. Your participation in today's session is a testament to our shared commitment to advancing agriculture, research, education, and extension to solve the challenges society is facing. Our goal for today's session is to gather responses to some vital questions as NIFA works to prioritize our funding portfolio. By the conclusion of our time together, you will have had the opportunity to share your thoughts on top priorities for research, education, and extension. We will discuss promising opportunities and solutions, challenges facing food and agriculture, and how we advance, support, and fill knowledge gaps. Before we begin the listening portion of our session, I would like to share with you a bit about NIFA's origins. In 1887, the Hatch Act authorized strengthening the capacity of the land grant unit to research agricultural problems faced by rural citizens. To support this mission, USDA established the earliest predecessor to NIFA, the Office of Experiment Stations. The Department of Agriculture Reorganization Act of 1994 merged the former Cooperative State Research Service and the former Extension Service into a single agency, the Cooperative State Research, Education, and Extension Service, or CSREES. The merger formed a single agency responsible for allocating funds and providing leadership of research, education, and extension. The 2008 Farm Bill created NIFA to take the place of the CSREES. While the agency's name has changed over the years, its mission has remained constant. NIFA continues to invest in and advance agriculture, research, education, and extension to solve problems and challenges facing our nation. Based on the countless bills that have been enacted into law since the first Morrill Act of 1862, NIFA has about 80 grant programs covering the spectrum of research, education, and extension. About 10 of those programs are capacity programs, which provide support for research and extension activities at the land grant institutions through grants to the states based on statutory formulas. Eligibility is limited to the cooperating land grant universities. There are even a few programs that NIFA administers that are not directly appropriated, such as the Small Business Innovation Research Grant Program and Biotechnology Risk Assessment Research Grants Program. These programs are funded through a statute-specific percentage of research and development appropriations and biotechnology research appropriations. It is important to understand the background of NIFA and the agency's programs because at the crux of this all are our stakeholders like you. The title of today's listening session, Investing in Science to Transform Lives. Transforming lives is exactly what we do every day. I have seen the impact of your work firsthand, whether it is developing scientific breakthroughs in the lab and in the field, or preparing tomorrow's agriculture workforce in the classroom, or helping people of all ages with innovative extension programs. You are improving the lives of people all over the nation. And we at NIFA are continuously impressed with your achievements. We want to ensure you, as we continue to develop our path forward, your input is a driving factor in the decisions we make. NIFA's investments in transformative science directly support the long-term prosperity and global preeminence of U.S. agriculture. We value your input and look forward to your comments. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Megan O'Reilly, and I will be your moderator for the next hour. As a reminder, please keep your camera off and your microphone muted unless you are speaking. This listening session is for NIFA to hear your top priorities. Given each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, we invite you to send your full written comments directly to NIFA at nifalistens@usda.gov. That information will be posted in the chat in just a moment. For our scheduled speakers, you will have a total of 5 minutes. The timer will start when I introduce you. Please take yourself off mute. If we are early or have available time before the next reservation, we will open the floor for other participants wishing to provide feedback during this session. There will also be additional open time at the end of this session to provide remarks. To make sure everyone can be heard in a timely fashion, the speaker will be muted after 5 minutes. The first speaker we have on our list is Ana Rosales. Are you on the call? Okay, since Anna is not here, we will move to Brent Ling. Brent, please go ahead.
Okay, hi everybody. I am Brent Ling, Director of External Affairs at Wholesome Wave, a Connecticut-based nonprofit that for 15 years has created and scaled innovative models for connecting customers with healthy fruits and vegetables. In many ways, we have been working on nutrition security since before it was defined and widely accepted. Wholesome Wave has been a recipient of both a FY23 and GusNIP grants in the USDA, and we have also privately funded several dozen programs across the country in both nutrition incentives and produce prescriptions. We work collaboratively with partners in all our work. One example is our National Produce Prescription Collaborative, which includes partners in healthcare or produce prescription practitioners, as well as our partners in healthcare, grocery retail, and research. We call the coalition NPPC, and we recently hosted a national produce prescription convening immediately following the White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health. But that video of that convening will be posted to nppc.health, and I encourage all the GusNIP PPR team at NIFA to view that recording as it becomes available. Both Wholesome Wave and NPPC applaud NIFA for hosting this listening session. It is a great utilization of the Zoom tool. I'm totally hearing being muted at 5 minutes, so thank you for hosting this. I'll jump right into our recommendations, which will be focused on GusNIP and produce prescription specifically. Specifically, our recommendations are in no particular order. One is to separate the grant review panels and the process and have an entirely different group evaluate PPR program proposals than evaluate the nutrition incentive or double up proposals. These programs have separate aims, and the requirements in PPR for a healthcare partnership really show a need to have expert reviewers who have keen knowledge of the intricacies of our immensely complicated healthcare system. And we also believe that separation between these two panels helps protect from a natural blurring of the evaluation criteria that could occur when the same reviewers are assessing both types of proposals. So thank you for considering separation of the panels. Our second recommendation is, like has been done with nutrition incentive grants, we believe that it is appropriate to set aside a separate review for scaled up PPR proposals. Nearly every single peer-reviewed publication that has evaluated the results and impacts of a GusNIP or a FY23 PPR project has iterated the importance of larger cohorts and case control groups in any future research. So while we appreciate the need for consistent evaluation criteria among programs, which that same requirement exists for nutrition incentive programs, but the large-scale programs there have proven to advance the science in many ways. The smaller ones have not yet. Specifically, we propose 50% of the total budget be dedicated to these large-scale grants, that they require the inclusion of a case control group, that they serve at least 250 patients, and that these patients ideally come from a single payer, and that they receive $60 per month of fresh fruits and vegetables, at least for at least 10 months. We appreciate your consideration of establishing the scaled tier for these grants, even if just 1 or 2 are awarded, so that we can have larger cohorts with control groups, which will lead to far more credible evidence base for these programs. Also, for the remaining half of the budget, we encourage the majority of the programs to be spent between $100,000 and $400,000 grants that will be prioritized based on the uniqueness of the study evaluation questions and their expectation to answer previously unanswered questions about the nuance of specific program design. At last week's USDA National Summit on Nutrition Security and Healthcare, one of the speakers from a large healthcare system emphasized the need to closely examine program differences so that systems like theirs can, with some certainty, invest in food as medicine. A study that assesses one redemption mechanism versus a study versus redemptions that have multiple choices for the patients is one way to do this. Another way would be to examine dosage. These are just a couple of examples of programs that could be, or study questions that could be answered within this middle tier range. And then finally, we recommend some small tier grants that are dedicated to specific program needs that are exempt from the core pre-post survey criteria and exempt from independent review. These grants could act similarly to the small grants established by the NCAE to help further integration into the EMR and other areas of the healthcare partnership. So those are our recommendations. Thank you again, specifically for GusNet PPR. Thank you for hosting for this stakeholder feedback opportunity and considering our proposals. We also applaud the team's creativity and execution to leverage PPR infrastructure to provide emergency response to COVID-19 this past summer. So thank you. Those are all my remarks, and I will submit to the record using the email provided.
Thank you. And the next few speakers that were on our schedule are not currently in the call. If there's anyone on the call who would like to offer some comments at this point, please raise your hand, your emoji hand, and we'll call on you. Okay, Ross Conrad, you'll be up next. Let me restart the timer. The floor is yours.
Yes, good afternoon. I'm a beekeeper based in Middlebury, Vermont, and I just wanted to make the request that consideration be given in all future grants to prioritize those that address climate change in one way or another, whether it's helping producers to adapt to climate change that's expected, or helping producers to mitigate climate change through either sequestering carbon in the soil or reducing their use of fossil fuels. That's basically it, short and sweet. Really need to focus, I think, a lot more in one way or another, whatever way you think is best, but priority needs to be given to those projects that focus on climate. Because quite frankly, if we don't deal with that effectively, none of the other efforts are going to matter a whole lot. And that's all I really wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. And the next speaker, let me reset this timer. I'm sorry if I don't pronounce it correctly. Fikret Isaac, you're up.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. I would like to just comment about research priority in plant animal breeding, especially for forest trees. Forest trees have big genomes, and the reference genomes we have are very fragmented. They are really not that informative for a lot of downstream analysis, like marker calling. So it would be really a great help to a lot of plant breeding communities for NIFA to support developing much better reference genomes for species. And now we have much better technology, DNA sequencing technologies, efficient technologies to sequence DNA and then develop reference genomes and pangenomes of the species. That will help a lot of breeders and geneticists. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you for sharing. Steve Strauss will be next. And Please do remember to introduce yourself and let us know if you're representing any organization before you start speaking. And go ahead, Steve Strauss.
I can't share my screen, so you can't see me. I guess it seems to be locked, Megan. So maybe stop the timer until that gets figured out. There you go. Okay, thank you very much, Megan. I put together a PowerPoint. I will send that along. It's got the title of Importance of Transformation Research for Science Application and Biosafety. And it's summarizing some key points from a talk I gave at the Society for In Vitro Biology annual meeting in June. And on the PowerPoint, you can see a link to that presentation if you want more of the details. The next slide says that regeneration and transformation, I'm calling RT, they're very intertwined processes, continue to be major limiting factors for gene editing and engineering in plants. I can't go into details, species and genotype differences, dramatic. Minor crops, woody crops, perhaps most difficult due to their biology, limited research investment. Instead, we have slow, costly, complex customization efforts that really repel most efforts to even do it. The miracle dev genes like Wuschel and baby boom, we've studied many of them over the years. They generally don't work, particularly not in dicots. They actually can impede RT pretty seriously and be very genotype specific. We don't have miracles in hand. Some people think that's the case. And this is on top of the large social and regulatory constraints. This difficulty in RT is often a deal breaker. Projects just don't move forward for research. The next slide says we need fresh approaches and new investments, and I give a number of examples. Again, can't go into in detail, transient editing systems, implanta systems, better understanding of plant defense, more exploration of agrobacterium biology and diversity, tools for control of expression and epigenetic responses to treatments that often impede things that we think will work, identification and use of a much wider variety of dev genes. Final bullet, in sum, a combination of basic and applied, but RT targeted research is badly needed. Next slide says NSF gets it. Why doesn't USDA NIFA get it? And there was a Dear Colleague letter sent around to the nation by NSF October 27th, just about a week ago, saying that we need to advance plant transformation, and many directorates at NSF, and they also pointed out USDA and others could possibly support it. And so I have a slide showing that screenshot. But in fact, as far as I know, only one program actually supports it specifically, and that's the Plant Genome Research Program. Next slide shows what the PGRP language says related to R2. That's under track 2, tools, resources, technology advances. New methods, tools, or techniques to overcome bottlenecks of plant transformation, especially those that improve plant regeneration, increase genotype independence, or circumvent tissue culture, and facilitate ease of transformation in the public sector. Technologies for advancing genome, epigenome editing technologies, exactly what I have in mind. So why doesn't USDA NIFA BRAG get it? Because many of the tools they wish to see developed and employed for management of things like gene dispersal and impacts depend on being able to do modifications efficiently and at scale. But research to do this is not specifically supported in the RFP, even though I know program leaders understand the importance of it, but nothing seems to have happened. So my final bullet is let's change this at USDA NIFA as soon as possible. There's lots of really important basic as well as applied research that needs to be done to enable all sorts of agricultural goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you for those comments. We have a little open space in the schedule again. If there's anyone else, you can raise your emoji hand to get on the list to speak right now. If there are no takers for that, Mark Schoenbeck is next on the list. Are you ready, Mark?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm gonna start the timer.
Okay,
Floor is yours.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for this opportunity to provide input on NIFA research priorities. My name is Mark Schombeck. I speak on behalf of the Organic Farming Research Foundation, which is a national nonprofit organization. The organic method codified in the USDA National Organic Standards emphasizes healthy soil with a diverse and vibrant biotic community and sufficient organic matter as the foundation of successful and sustainable farming. Research has already shown that integrated organic systems that include cover crops, diversified rotations, organic soil amendments, reduced tillage intensity can improve soil health, enhance microbial activity and functional biodiversity, sequester carbon, protect water quality, limit greenhouse gas emissions, and improve resilience to weather extremes. One challenge that organic farmers face is that crop yields have been constrained by insufficient research-backed practical information on organic production, and specifically a lack of crop cultivars well adapted to organic practices. Recent expansion of the Organic Agriculture Research and Extension Initiative and Organic Transitions Program has begun to address this shortfall, yet only about 2% of USDA research funding currently goes into organic systems, which is far short of the market share of about 7%. OREI and ORG have funded research that has already made important breakthroughs towards improving organic yields and farm profits while optimizing ecosystem services. Some examples include organic funded farmer participatory plant research, plant breeding networks that are developing new cultivars of vegetables, dry beans, corn, and cereal grains with key traits for organic systems, such as regional adaptation, nutrient use efficiency, weed competitiveness, disease resistance, and capacity to partner with beneficial soil microbes, as well as important market traits. Organic funded development of new cover crop cultivars better suited for organic farmers is also underway. OREI funded studies in California show that the best organic soil and nutrient management can promote tightly coupled nitrogen cycling, in which tomato crops give top yields on soil with soluble nitrogen levels low enough to protect water quality. Other OREI research is attempting to develop similar systems for other crops and regions. Another OREI funded project developed anaerobic soil disinfestation, a technique for developing a beneficial soil microbiome that protects organic strawberry from multiple diseases. Other OREI projects are currently working on this technique for other crops, including high tunnel and field-grown organic vegetables. Other research at North Carolina State has shown that well-managed organically farmed soils can develop such good biological activity that the need for nitrogen, applied soluble nitrogen, can often get close to zero. Cutting-edge research has found that plant genetics interacts with the soil microbiome, and that conventional plant breeding methods can enhance the ability of current crop cultivars to benefit from those microbial associations. Furthermore, the avoidance of synthetic inputs and the limited use of NOP-allowed pest controls protects the soil biota from chemical disturbances, which recent research has found can be even more damaging than routine tillage. Some leading research priorities that are identified in a 2020 survey of organic producers includes improved organic IPM for weeds, insect pests, and diseases, integrated strategies to optimize long-term soil health, crop nutrition, and yields, developing more crop cultivars for organic systems, and adapting to climate change. Additional NIFA-funded research into these priorities can help organic farmers maintain satisfactory yields while reducing crop input costs, leading to greater net return for farmers and ranchers. Enhance yield stability and resilience in the face of climate disruption, and hence protect farm economic viability and food security. Can achieve net zero greenhouse gas emissions and protect soil, water, and other resources, and optimize that plant-soil microbiome partnership to improve crop performance and reduce fertilizer and crop protection input needs and their associated environmental impacts. This research will benefit all producers, not just organic. Thus, we strongly encourage NIFA to fund organic systems research through the SERI Specialty Crop Research Initiative and AFRI programs, as well as OREI and ORG. In particular, research into the soil plant microbiome and plant genetic relations in organic production systems can be especially valuable and should be.
Okay. Thank you for those comments. As a reminder to everyone, additional comments and all of your comments can be sent to the email nifalistens@usda.gov. Anna Rosales, if you are ready, you are next on the list. Okay, let me get the timer started.
Thank you.
And go ahead and unmute yourself. You're on your way.
Excellent. I'm Anna Rosales, Senior Director of Government Affairs and Nutrition at the Institute of Food Technologists. We appreciate the opportunity to provide input on the National Institute of Food and Agriculture NIFA Science Priorities. IFT is a global organization of approximately 12,000 individual members in 95 countries who are committed to advancing the science of food. We believe that science is essential to ensuring a global food supply that is sustainable, safe, nutritious, and accessible to all. IFT commends NIFA on their broad research focus, including climate change, sustainable agriculture, and food safety. And we are pleased that NIFA has a focus on nutrition security and improving the quality, diversity, and access to nutritious foods in the U.S. We share this common focus as we believe food science and technology has and will continue to play an important role in improving food and nutrition security. We also appreciate the efforts NIFA has made to engage with food scientists in our organization, including food science department heads in recent years, and we encourage this continued engagement. Our members have found the meetings to be extremely useful for helping researchers at their institutions identify funding and collaboration opportunities. In recent years, the food and agriculture sector has faced some of its greatest challenges in decades. A global pandemic, climate change, energy and water shortages, microbial food safety recalls, and escalating military conflicts have tested the resiliency and flexibility of the global and domestic food supply chain. The recent White House Conference on Hunger, Nutrition, and Health also brought to light the growing issue of diet-related chronic diseases and the numerous disparities in food and nutrition security across our nation. These challenges reveal that future research and technological advancements must move away from siloed approaches and embrace a broader systems approach to strengthen the efficiency, sustainability, and resiliency of the food system and ensure better nutrition and health equity around the globe. We encourage NIFA to focus on this broader systems approach to research that incorporates all components of the food system from farm to food to fork. This means a focus on research that considers agriculture and crop science, food science and technology, and consumer nutrition and health. Some of the greatest food system successes have used this approach, such as food fortification and crop biofortification, that has saved lives around the world. Traditional food preservation technologies have also made food safer, more available, and reduced food waste. But newer technologies are focused on more sustainable, non-thermal processes that continue to ensure safety while also preserving nutritional quality. Research is still needed to ensure these technologies are affordable and scalable for broader impact across all populations. As science and technology advance, it will also be important for NIFA to support education and extension that can break through the noise of the information age to provide accurate, relevant, and actionable information to all stakeholders, from farmers to consumers. Misinformation about agriculture and food science technologies has the potential to halt scientific advances and limit the potential of technology to improve food and nutrition security, advance economic development, create jobs, and positively impact the planet. As a global food science profession organization, we are also particularly interested in developing the next generation of young food science and technology researchers and would encourage NIFA to continue to expand their current efforts, such as NextGen, to consider how they may further engage and fund students at the college level interested in pursuing careers in food and agricultural sciences. Again, thank you for the opportunity to provide input on the NIFA science strategy.
Thank you so much for those comments. And if there is anyone who is not pre-registered and would like to have an opportunity to speak now, please raise your emoji hand. Okay, the next person on our list is Carrie Harmon. Carrie, are you on and ready to begin? Great, I
I
see
am,
you're there.
thank you.
I'll go ahead and start the timer. Floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, I'm Carrie Harmon. I'm a plant pathologist at the University of Florida. I have responsibilities across extension, research, and education, so I very much appreciate the ability to speak on these three areas. I want to note that I am part of the National Plant Diagnostic Network, so I'll be focusing quite a bit of what I talk about there, but more broadly than that. Plant pests and pathogens represent a significant threat to our food supply and natural resources, and so accurate and rapid diagnoses of these problems is key to addressing plant pest problems while they're still at a manageable population. And as climate change expands the range of invasive species, where they can survive, the crops that they affect, and population growth increases our need for the food, fiber, and feed, we have to be ever more prepared to detect and then manage plant problems earlier. Thus, bolstering plant diagnostic capacity and skill sets is essential through projects such as the National Plant Diagnostic Network and the new Diagnostic Assay Validation Network, both NIFA programs. NPDN is providing the basic framework for diagnostics within the extension system, while the DAVN will conduct research to validate diagnostic assays and controls and encourage communication across assay development, culture collections, and the diagnosticians with the industries they serve. We would like to stress the need for continued support for integrated infrastructure in the research that supports accurate diagnostics and disease management both. Additionally, support for culture collections underpins population studies, controls for diagnostics, and breeding for disease resistance. Education of the next generation of plant scientists and diagnosticians is a continued and growing need as faculty and staff retire and expertise becomes more limited. Integrated projects that encourage hands-on, applied, and experiential learning opportunities are commendable and have proven to be valuable. And there are several programs within NIFA that we would love to see expanded. So I would ask that you consider expanding this effort in educational fellowships and assistantships through both the PhD level, but also down into the bachelor's level. Finally, extension of research outputs must be bolstered and solidified to ensure the extension system across the US can continue to serve those who produce the food, feed, and fiber that we all rely on. The plant diagnostic labs provide an especially relevant nexus for all of these efforts, as the technology that we rely on is the same as that used for human and animal diagnostics, providing experiential learning without the stress and worry of zoonotic or human pathogens. Our connections within the agricultural and ecosystem support systems encourage that we have a finger on the pulse of industry. So we recommend stable capacity funding that recognizes educational, research, and extension services provided by plant diagnostic units. I very much appreciate the ability and the chance to communicate with this group, and I look forward to submitting written recommendations as well. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. The next person on our list is Lowell Randall. Lowell, are you on and ready to provide your comments? Okay, I'll start
Yes,
the
I
timer.
am.
Here we
Great,
go.
thank you. Yeah, this is Lowell Randall. I'm speaking this afternoon on behalf of the Agricultural and Applied Economics Association, or AAEA. The ag economics discipline is an important part of the NIFA portfolio, and so we appreciate this opportunity to talk about some key issues that we see and areas where we would like to increase some support for the discipline within the agency. And so I think starting out, data is so critically important for all research, but in particular economic research. So anything that NIFA can do to help support the creation and access of data is much appreciated, as well as working with sister agencies on data. We would like to see increased investments in social sciences across the NIFA portfolio. So not just specific economic research programs, but also the integration of economics into other programs. So interdisciplinary grants, we think have a lot of value, where economics can help tell a fuller story of some of the research that's being supported. We would also like to suggest that it would be beneficial to add some additional economists to the agency, and have their expertise at the disposal of NIFA. I would then turn to a few key grand challenges that AAEA has recently released and identified. The first is dealing with rural recovery and prosperity. As we look at the goal of recovery and prosperity for rural America, applied economists need to be in a position to enhance rural stakeholders' capacity to evaluate and respond to community needs, increase community capacity to provide support to rural businesses and their workers, ensure the ability of rural communities to thrive in the face of continuous demographic, climate, and technological change. So we believe that NIFA can help with supporting the development and adoption of research-based policy recommendations, enhanced rural community decision-making capacity, appropriate infrastructure investments, and that will help foster entrepreneurship and innovation. Again, data, both regional data, sustained investment data, all of these would provide outcomes to better position applied economists to help support the rural economy. The second thematic area is in the area of food, and building off of the recent White House conference. We would suggest that additional analysis to identify, predict, and explain causal relationships of policies and market conditions throughout the food system. It would be helpful to support toolkits to address these types of issues, and that's going to require also collaboration across multiple disciplines. So some of the outcomes would be evidence-based agricultural supply chain that informs public policy to provide high-quality, nutritious food, support stakeholder needs, and ultimately have a food system that provides safe and affordable foods across the chain. Speaking of supply chain, that is an additional thematic area. So as we know, we've gone through some supply chain challenges. Supporting that through NIFA could help with outcomes for less vulnerable food system, affordable and stable access to food for consumers, appropriate supply chain infrastructure investments, and development and adoption of research-based policy recommendations. The final thematic area is agricultural production and climate change. As we know, critical questions remain about how to best to adapt the ag sector to a changing climate and what that implies for rural communities, companies, and natural resource base. So given these uncertainties, it's important for NIFA to support a balanced portfolio of research endeavors supporting adaptation in the ag sector, and going through how economists can help support driving that data-based solutions. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Good timing. Thanks, Lowell. And the next speaker on the list is Nicholas Rossi. As soon as I see you're unmuted, I'll go ahead and start the timer. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Rossi, and I'm a policy associate at the National Sustainable Agriculture Coalition, or NSAC. NSAC is a national alliance of over 130 family farm, food, rural, and conservation organizations that together take common positions on federal agriculture and food policies to advance sustainable agriculture. Research, extension, and education are key issues for our coalition. And so our top priorities for NIFA include centering racial equity across all NIFA programs. Ramping up investment in BIPOC research institutions is critical for 1890 and 1994 land-grant universities and Hispanic serving institutions. Investments in these institutions ensure that BIPOC researchers play a central role in climate solutions, including extension and education, and a wider range of potential solutions. Next is increasing agency-wide emphasis on research that helps farmers improve climate change resilience and mitigation. NIFA's competitive programs, including SARE, ORG, OREI, and AFRI, and capacity programs, including Hatch and Smith-Lever, are instrumental in identifying sustainable farming solutions that improve climate change resilience, adaptation, and mitigation. NIFA priorities should include research and investment in diversified, perennial-based, and perennial annual integrated farming systems, advanced grazing management, and livestock crop integrated systems. Furthermore, NIFA competitive grants should prioritize soil health and agriculture resilience to climate change and other stresses as research priorities. Next is workforce development. NIFA made a one-time investment in the meat and poultry workforce development program over the last year, primarily funding institutions of higher education. However, the focus on higher education does little to ease the logistical burdens to would-be skilled meat cutters, butchers, and entrepreneurs of rural operations. To better meet the needs of diverse communities across the country, the options for locating these workforce training programs should be expanded to a variety of different institutions, including worker training centers, high school pre-apprenticeship programs, nonprofits serving a related need, food safety-focused consultancies, and the businesses themselves. NIFA has funded several meat and poultry workforce development projects, but has not historically had the funding to make continuing investments in a planned way that covers the entire country, nor to study the effectiveness of these grants at closing workforce skill level gaps in different regions of the country. NIFA should study best practices and impacts across meat and poultry workforce development programs. Next is the Beginning Farmer and Rancher Development Program. As the growing climate crisis presents new and intensified challenges, BFRDP can and must prioritize funding for projects designed to help beginning farmers and ranchers prepare for, adapt to, and remain economically viable through ongoing and future climate disruptions. Increasing the number of beginning farmers and ranchers contributes to a more resilient U.S. agricultural system. Focusing trainings on key qualities of resilient farming systems would make BFRDP even more impactful in helping farmers mitigate and adapt to the impacts of climate change. NIFA should develop a long-term strategic plan for BFRDP, building on the expertise from the USDA Equity Commission and BIPOC-led serving institutions to identify needs within the program, both regionally and industry-specific, and establish consistent funding allocations to invest in innovative and multi-year programs that not only train the next generation of farmers, but also build more resilient, climate-friendly, and successful models of farming. Next, NIFA should increase investments in organic research to enhance the efficacy of organic production systems in addressing the climate crisis. NIFA's organic programs, the Organic Agriculture Research and Extension Initiative, and the Organic Transitions Program play a pivotal role in advancing organic agriculture as a central solution for mitigating the impacts of climate change. We know with scientific certainty that organic management leads to a more resilient landscape in the face of the ongoing climate crisis. However, there remains a significant gap between current research funding levels and the amount spent on organic production. Their research can ensure that organic systems remain productive and competitive while sequestering carbon and reducing greenhouse gas emissions. Both programs are primary drivers of organic systems research that lead to the development of new tools and practices that help organic farmers be more competitive in a changing global market. And finally, NIFA must continue its focus on strategies and tools that help small and medium scale farmers, organic and other ecologically managed systems. We encourage NIFA to continue prioritizing research on strategies and tools that assist organic and small and medium sized farmers in making decisions about their production and management practices. And I'll say thank you for your time, and we'll be submitting a written comment.
Thanks so much. And a reminder again that the email for submitting written comments is nifalistens@usda.gov. Next speaker on the list is Lee Van Wyken. As soon as I see you're unmuted, I'll go ahead and start the timer. Okay.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Van Wyken. I'm the Executive Director of Science Policy for the Weed Science Society of America, and I am also representing the 4 regional weed science societies, as well as the Aquatic Plant Management Society. Behind me in my backdrop is one of our worst foes in production agriculture, Palmer amaranth, which is spreading throughout the country. And we have major challenges with dealing with many of its similar cousins as weeds, and that's a threat to our food security. in terms of pest management, it's no mistake that, over 2/3 of all pesticides applied are actually herbicides for weed control. And so weed control remains a problem that will not go away, and we need all the help we can get. It's also, no secret that weed management in organic systems typically ranks towards the top. It's very difficult for the challenges that they face in organic. And if weed control was easy, we might be doing all organic agriculture. That being said, 3 areas that have strong potential for influencing the future of weed management. 1 is weed genomics. 2 is site-specific or precision weed management. And 3 would be integrated weed management using all of our different paradigms of techniques. And when I talk about that, I'm looking at 1 being physical, mechanical, 2 cultural management techniques, 3 is herbicides, and 4 would be biocontrol. Now, going back to weed genomics, that could actually be, the 5th, paradigm shift in weed management, and that some of our worst weeds, such as the palmer amaranth behind me, are outcrossers. And by studying and then mapping the genome and possibly using gene drive technology to drive like a male sterility trait, we could potentially manage these weeds through the use of genomics. And a lot of that work is just starting to be done. It's very new yet to the discipline. There's a private partnership being set up through public-private, I should say, through the integrated, I should say this again, International Weed Management Consortium. And so that's off to a good start. Second, going back to site-specific or precision weed management. Again, there's work is increasing. Europe is actually ahead of us in this, with the technology. And there's some of the private companies are starting to look at real-time, precision management. Takes a lot of computer power to go across fields in a scale and at a speed that would be productive for weed management. But more research into that area would be very helpful. And then finally, integrated weed management. I'm looking across the board. We're dealing with herbicide resistance. We know that herbicides are not the one size the silver bullet, and we need these integrated weed management. So that includes, just studying weed biology, more research on that. Looking at, cover crops, harvest weed seed control, crop rotations, and even, studying the weed seed bank. Like, one of these palmer amaranth that's behind me can produce, up to over 1 million seeds have been counted. And so you have one of those plants going back to the seed bank, you're losing ground, just with losing control on one. So combining, these 3 above techniques, we might be able to manage that. And then in terms of, the support for the programs that are really critical to help move these along, in addition to AFRI, certainly the crop protection and pest management program, CPPM, is very important. The IR4 project funding, the extension and research station funding through Hatch and Smith Lever. SARE is another local and critical program. And then finally, the programs, the specialty crop and organic research extension initiative, having more weed science work in those are going to be critical to help us move along to meet the challenges of weed management. So I appreciate the time, and we look forward to submitting more comments in the future.
Thank you, Lee. And we have a little open time in the schedule now. If there's anyone who was not registered who would like to take the opportunity to offer some comments at this point, please raise your emoji hand and we will put you on the schedule. Okay, no one raising hands. We will move on to the next, who is Michael Carter. Okay, I will go ahead and start the timer.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Michael Carter, Policy Associate at the Good Food Institute, and thank you again for the opportunity to provide comments regarding agricultural research, extension, and education within NIFA. GFI is a 501c3 nonprofit working in the space of alternative proteins, which we define as alternatives to animal-sourced foods like meat and dairy that are instead made from plants, cultivated animal cells, or biotechnology. This is a fast-growing and increasingly important research space. Our top priority for research, education, and extension at NIFA is to expand and fund alternative protein research and education opportunities at universities around the country. NIFA is a leader in its support for alternative protein research. We're thrilled to note that NIFA has awarded over $15 million in research funding to 12 alternative protein research projects at universities across the country since 2020. By awarding these grants, NIFA has recognized that alternative proteins represent an exciting opportunity to mitigate climate change, build a resilient food system, and address other societal needs. To fully unlock these benefits, we believe NIFA should expand its support for additional research projects at additional academic institutions. NIFA's Climate Adaptation and Resilience Plan seeks to adapt to change, build resiliency, support the vulnerable, and prepare the agricultural research workforce of the future. With animal source foods driving the majority of agricultural emissions and around 15% of the world's total greenhouse gas emissions, alternative proteins offer a low carbon opportunity to meet growing demand while reducing environmental harm. Plant-based alternatives to meat use 71 to 99% less water, 36 to 95% fewer greenhouse gases, and 47 to 96% less land use, while a life cycle assessment of cultivated meat commissioned by GFI found that it uses 17 to 92% less greenhouse gases when powered by renewables and 60 to 95% less land. Further, diversifying our methods of protein production can increase resilience against climate-related and geopolitical shocks to our supply chains and reduce the risk of zoonotic disease and antimicrobial resistance. The growing alternative protein industry also promises new agricultural jobs and economic growth. An assessment partially funded by the UK government found that with substantial global investment, including research and development, the industry could support almost 10 million jobs and be valued at over $1 trillion. However, those jobs and value will largely go to the nations that offer the growing industry public support. And while the United States currently boasts the world's strongest alternative protein private sector by far, it is lagging behind in public support. While the US has allocated $25 million to alternative protein research, including that $15 million from NIFA, that is significantly less than other high-income countries and less than 10% of the global total. Nations like Singapore and Israel are leading the world in investment. Denmark allocated $177 million to plant-based protein research this year alone, and China included alternative proteins as a major part of its 5-year agricultural plan. With the United States already increasingly dependent on foreign imports for its food supply, especially Brazilian beef and Asian seafood, supporting a domestic alternative protein industry should be a priority. Now, alternative proteins can deliver on their promise to our agricultural systems and economy so long as they can be produced cheaply and provide a high-quality sensory experience to consumers. While plant-based and cultivated products have experienced tremendous improvements in the recent past, due in part to research by NIFA and others, there remains room for improvement. Knowledge gaps include solving specific problems, such as ways to cultivate animal cells on scaffolding that accurately reproduces whole-cut meat products, as well as open-ended opportunities for valuable breakthroughs, such as research on the functionalization and fractionation of plant proteins in economically desirable American-grown crops. The United States must also develop a workforce capable of innovating and producing alternative proteins. Developing education and degree programs in the field, hands-on training, and industry partnerships, especially among underserved communities, would develop a workforce for the future that is interested and excited about careers in agriculture. With all of these benefits in mind, alternative proteins are critical to accomplishing the goals of the recent executive order on advancing biotechnology and biomanufacturing innovation for a sustainable, safe, and secure American bioeconomy. GFI is happy to be a partner to NIFA in determining the most high-impact research that will deliver the greatest benefits to American agricultural producers and consumers. We will also be submitting detailed written comments to NIFA later this month. We want to thank NIFA for the valuable work it is doing in support of alternative proteins and humbly request an expansion of research and educational opportunities in this field. Thank you.
Thank you for those comments. We are ready for our next speaker, and that is Peter LaFontaine.
Hey, can you see me?
Okay. Yep, I'll start the timer and the floor is yours.
Great, thanks. Hi, thanks for the opportunity to speak today. I'm Peter LaFontaine. I'm the Agriculture Policy Manager for Friends of the Mississippi River, where we engage people to protect, restore, and enhance the river and its watershed in the Twin Cities region here in Minnesota. We're also a participant in the Kernza CAP project under NIFA's Sustainable Agriculture Systems Program. You probably know Minnesota's ag sector is largely focused on production of summer annuals like corn and soy. Our farmers are great at what they do, but unfortunately, there is a key vulnerability associated with these crops. Simple fact is that soil over 100 million acres in the Midwest alone is left exposed and unplanted between harvest and autumn, and when the new crop is well established the following year, which creates a really wide range of challenges, everything from loss of sediment and nutrients to surface and groundwater, to degraded soil health, degraded wildlife and pollinator habitat, limited water holding capacity, and numerous other risks associated with increasing climate threats. Fortunately, a scalable solution is at hand. It's called Market-Based Continuous Living Cover. That's CLC. I'm going to say that acronym a lot, Continuous Living Cover, which covers farmland with profitable living crops year-round. CLC cropping systems can incorporate a diverse range of crops into existing rotations, including perennials, winter annuals, and spring or summer annuals. Some examples include perennial grain crops like Kernza, which is a cousin of wheat with deep year-round roots, winter hardy annual oil seeds like camelina and pennycress that have tremendous potential as sustainable biofuels, perennial woody crops like hybrid hazelnuts, and diversified grasslands, pastures, and perennial forages such as alfalfa. It's worth reiterating here, continuous living cover systems build on the strengths of our current agriculture. Rather than taking row crop land out of production or requiring that farmers navigate NRCS conservation programs like EQIP, CLC Ag augments and reinforces current crop production systems, making it much more attractive to a wide base of farmers. These enhanced systems provide multiple benefits. CLCs increase the amount, profitability, and resilience of crop production. They have a much better ability to retain and store rainfall, to retain nutrients and sediment, and to improve habitat. And there are numerous direct and indirect climate benefits, such as preventing nitrogen conversion, reducing farm inputs, and potentially increasing carbon sequestration. I sometimes get asked, how is this different from just adding cover crops to a rotation? Well, cover crops by USDA definition do not produce a harvestable commodity, and there are major economic constraints on wide use of cover crops. By contrast, CLC Ag is based on using commodity producing crops. Some of these options, like perennial grains or improved winter annual oil seeds, are novel. Others are based on repurposing existing crops at scale. The key to success is market-based strategies. And federal policy has a really vital role in realizing these multiple benefits. Most importantly, for the purposes of this session, I want to impress upon you the need for a really robust federal research and development program for continuous living cover agriculture. And NIFA is extremely well positioned to lead this effort. In our advocacy work around the Farm Bill and annual approach, my organization is highlighting the need for committed and long-term federal investment in comprehensive R&D projects, such as NIFA's Sustainable Agriculture Systems projects, which can help ID key strategies to overcoming systemic barriers. I mentioned at the outset that we're participating in the Kernza CAP, and it's been a really incredible opportunity to solve a wide spectrum of issues that might otherwise feel intractable. Other NIFA pathways include AFRI's Foundational and Applied Science Program, and I also encourage you to expand the scope of NIFA's Supplemental and Alternative Crops Program, which is currently limited to canola and hemp, to allow for work on CLC crops. I want to close with a really strong plug for two institutions in our region that are playing a leading role in this research and development effort, specifically the Land Institute down in Salina, Kansas, and the Forever Green Initiative here at the University of Minnesota. Please fund their proposals. They've been on the cutting edge of CLC research and implementation for decades and have built really outstanding teams. Thanks again for your time and interest, and we look forward to engaging in the future.
Thank you, Peter. The next speaker on our list is Rachel Owen. Rachel, once you're unmuted, I will go ahead and start the timer.
Wonderful, thank you. Well, good afternoon. My name is Rachel Owen, and I'm the Government Relations Manager for the Agronomy, Crops, and Soil Science Societies of America. The American Society of Agronomy, Crop Science Society of America, and Soil Science Society of America represent nearly 8,000 scientists in academia, industry, and government. We also support a nationwide network of more than 13,300 certified crop advisors and over 700 certified professional soil scientists who work directly with farmers as trusted on-farm advisors. Our members and certified professionals are dedicated to meeting the demands of a growing world population through the pursuit and application of agronomic, crop, and soil science knowledge. Our societies are dedicated to addressing what we see as the greatest challenge facing agriculture: growing food to feed a growing human population while promoting environmental quality, all in the face of a changing climate. NIFA can play a critical role in supporting our members conducting vital research on the plant, soil, water continuum. Today, I want to share with you 3 of the top priorities for research, extension, and education that we think NIFA can address. First, USDA and NIFA need to create a clear plan for public access to NIFA-funded science and data that supports open access publication while maintaining support for research activities. Further, to achieve rapid gains in agricultural resilience, we need to address the roadblocks created by non-standardized and random data structures, long fostered by a research culture resistant to data sharing. USDA must invest considerable planning and resources into what data are collected, managing that data, and then the long-term sustainability, preservation, and curation practices. While open data policies require researchers to make their federally funded data public, in many cases, there are no federal repository or support to do so. And this is going to be absolutely critical as researchers are being made to adapt to the recent policies from the White House Office of Science and Technology on public access to science and data. Our second priority is that NIFA must promote equitable outcomes in research, extension, and education by providing adequate support to students and early career researchers and to researchers at small institutions and non-land grant institutions. Graduate students funded on NIFA research grants must be provided with adequate pay and resources to succeed in their programs. We also think that NIFA should expand scholarship and fellowship opportunities for students historically underrepresented in the agricultural research workforce. To better serve researchers at small and minority serving institutions, NIFA should urge the inclusion of MSIs or minority serving institutions in the NIFA Centers of Excellence proposals. And NIFA should also broaden support for agricultural research and extension infrastructure at MSIs and non-land grant institutions through regional agricultural science innovation engines, similar to some of the work that's been done recently in the TIP Directorate at the National Science Foundation. Finally, NIFA should allocate funding to facilitate long-term partnerships between 1862, 1890, and 1994 land grant institutions so that researchers who are at institutions that are less well-resourced will have better access to facilities and resources needed to conduct agricultural research. Finally, as our third priority, we urge NIFA to address 2 critical funding gaps that our members have identified, and that's funding for fundamental soil science research and also plant breeding. Soils are the foundation of agriculture, but soil science research and teaching programs are disappearing across the country. NIFA's focus on outcomes rather than systems and disciplines in their program priorities has left soil scientists without clear funding paths to conduct research, to understand basic soil processes, which are the fundamental principles by which we can promote better outcomes in production, agriculture, and environmental quality. Plant breeding and crop improvement research also lack public support. In the face of changing climate, improved crop varieties will be a critical management tool for maintaining agricultural productivity, yet public sector plant breeders do not have the support they need to efficiently make improvements. Thank you for the opportunity to provide feedback. We've been sharing these priorities as well through our Farm Bill recommendations, and we look forward to working with USDA and NIFA to address the most pressing research challenges in agronomy, crops, and soil science research. Thanks.
Thank you, Rachel. And our next speaker on the schedule is Vonda Richardson. Vonda, you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Okay, I will go ahead and start the timer and the floor is yours.
Good afternoon. I'm Vonda Richardson, Director of Florida A&M Cooperative Extension and current Chair of the Association of Extension Administrators. The Association of Extension Administrators represents cooperative extension programs at the 19 historically Black 1890 land-grant universities on matters pertaining to organization, policy, program, legislative, and budgetary concerns. AEA is part of the National Cooperative Extension System that translates research into practical applications and provide non-formal educational programs to address critical public needs for individuals, families, and communities to enhance quality of life. I want to thank the National Institute of Food and Agriculture for this opportunity to provide input on the agency's priorities. We consider NIFA a valued cooperative extension partner. 1890 Cooperative Extension assists diverse audiences with specific emphasis on serving those with limited social and economic resources. This role is critical for NIFA and critical for helping assist audiences who oftentimes feel neglected, underserved, and not represented. Extension's ability to respond to critical community needs has been affected from years of stagnated appropriations in Smith-Lever 3B and C, Smith-Lever 3D, 1890 extension, and 1994 extension funding lines, what we call our capacity lines. This is our top priority for impacting people and communities, including the most vulnerable. This stagnant capacity can hinder our ability to reach people who can benefit from the most available science, those who are underserved, and those who need help adopting new technology. Increasing capacity funding for extension will be critical for addressing emerging top national priorities. The most promising opportunities for advancing food and agricultural priorities include climate resiliency, which is also climate smart agriculture and climate resilient communities, health equity and well-being, economic and workforce development, 4-H positive youth development, urban agriculture, closing the digital opportunity gap, and diversity, equity, and inclusion. We recognize there are challenges facing food and agriculture in the coming decades, and there's a fundamental knowledge gap that exists that limits the ability of extension to respond to these challenges. And these gaps include food availability and equitable access, water quality and quantity, extreme weather variability, sea level rise and saltwater inundation, population expansion, and aging workforce and economic sustainability. A robust, flexible, and connected extension system is critical as the USDA seeks to support a resilient food, agriculture, and natural resources system. Based on those challenges, there are general areas of food and agriculture research that should be advanced and supported to fill these knowledge gaps. Our top priority for extension for NIFA's investment includes supporting increases in capacity funding for 1890, 1994, and 1862 institutions. The capacity funds enable the development of local and regional relationships, linkages with partner organizations, and increase resources available to address the important locally, regionally, and nationally. These resources provide a base for institutions, especially our 1890 institutions, to build the fundamental and functional capacity needed to respond to unique and emerging issues impacting diverse audiences. The capacity funds are vitally important to leverage state and local investments in supporting the national extension network. We ask specifically for support for increases in capacity funding for 1890 extension and Evans-Allen's research to equitable levels, raising the levels of 1890 extension and Evans-Allen's research to the authorized levels of 40% of Smith-Lever and Hatch respectively in the 2023 Farm Bill would definitely strengthen the capacity of 1890s in delivering these authorized programs to the constituencies that we serve. AEA joins the Cooperative Extension System, ECOP, in urging NIFA to consider the importance of increased extension capacity funding that can be used to leverage partnerships to develop additional programs that benefit people as they struggle with the major challenges of today's society. Again, I would like to thank NIFA and Dr. Diane Toombs, Acting Director, and her staff for the opportunity to provide this input to priorities. Thank you.
Thank you for that input. We have some open time in the schedule, so we'll offer again, if there's anyone who would like to raise your emoji hand and have an opportunity to offer comments right now, if you were not scheduled during this time. We have a little time to make that available. Okay, seeing no one with raised hands, we will go ahead and take a break until the bottom of the hour. So that would be 3:30 Eastern time, 2:30 Central and across the way. So at that, we will resume the meeting the bottom of the hour with scheduled speakers and a new moderator. Thank you.
Name is Donna Hyatt, and I'll be your moderator for the next 60 minutes. At the time of registration, participants were given the opportunity to reserve a 5-minute time slot to provide feedback. We'll call on participants in order of the reservation, and if we're early or we have available time before the next reservation, we'll open the floor for other participants wishing to provide feedback during this session. There will also be additional time at the end of the session to provide remarks. Please keep your camera off as a reminder until you're speaking. When providing feedback, please adhere to the 5-minute time limit to stay on schedule, and you'll be muted at the end of 5 minutes. You can review your remaining time by watching the clock that we will have displayed during the session. The timer will start after I introduce you. At that time, you're invited to turn on your camera and unmute. Please give your name and organization when you begin speaking. Participants can also provide written feedback by emailing nifalistens@usda.gov through 5 p.m. Eastern time on November 30th, and that email address will also be posted in the chat. Our next scheduled speaker is at 2:30 Central time, and if they are here, we'll ask Casey Bozeman to unmute, and if not, we will open the floor for other speakers. So let's see if Casey is here. Okay, I don't see Casey in the meeting just yet. Maybe she's having some technical issues. So when she comes in, we will ask her if she would like to speak. If there's anybody else who would like to provide comments, please raise your emoji hand and I'll call on you in the order of hands raised. Okay, it looks like we may have somebody ready to speak. Carl Martin, if you would like to speak now, go ahead and turn your camera on and unmute.
I'm unwilling, I can't turn my camera on. It says.
Sure, that's fine.
There we go. We are set. Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon. My name is Carl Martin. I'm the Dean and Director of the Division of Extension at UW-Madison. First, I want to express my sincere gratitude to the National Institute of Food and Agriculture for providing this opportunity. Today, I want to focus on 3 critical issues facing Wisconsin and extension programs across the U.S. These 3 issues are capacity funding, programming priorities, and workforce training. So I'll start with capacity funding. Capacity funding is critical for extension programming across the U.S., as well as to maintain the powerful extension network. The extension network covers over 3,000 counties, parishes, and boroughs across the U.S. I work with agriculture, youth development, natural resources, health and well-being, community development, and human development and relationships is embedded within the extension network and critical for our constituents. We sometimes hear that the only trusted government official are those who are based within the community. And that is an important role extension educators play across the country. Increased Smith-Lever capacity funding is critical to maintain that network. In Wisconsin, we leverage our federal funding 5-to-1, meaning that for every $1 of federal Smith-Lever funding we receive, we get $5 of county and state funding. If you look at our Smith-Lever funding levels over the past 30 years and the inflation rate over that same period of time, you'll quickly realize that we have lost 50% of our buying power with our federal dollars. That has put a squeeze on our local funding here in Wisconsin, and we started to see county funders question why they are required to pay such a high proportion of an educator's salary. I think they're asking a reasonable question as they have increased their portion of funding to extension to keep up with inflation and are asking why our partners can't do the same. We recently had a county cut 3/4 of its funding and programming for that very reason. So capacity funding, that's priority one. Second one is programming priorities. Water issues seem to be a hot topic both here in Wisconsin and across much of the country. We recently received $1 million in funding from our state government for extension. That was a base increase. And the top priority for that funding was water management, both groundwater and surface water issues in the state. There were other issues related to ag constituencies, but that was the number one. I think that's a testament to the importance of water issues, both now and moving into the future. Another issue here in Wisconsin is forest management. How do we better utilize this sustainable and natural resource? Much of the country was cut over many years ago, and now it's grown into a highly valuable resource. We need to figure out how do we use that around workforce development and better utilization of our natural resources. Climate mitigation and adaptation, that continues to be an important topic. Extension plays a unique role in that we provide the training and those on-the-ground relationships that are so important. The last issue I want to talk about is workforce training for extension professionals. Workforce challenges around recruitment, retention, and training are apparent across the country. There are over 32,000 extension employees and 2.8 million volunteers. These jobs are more difficult than ever. We're hiring more educators with bachelor's degrees and less with master's degrees, and we're seeing a high turnover rate and a strong need for additional professional development. Here in Wisconsin, we are working to develop a core competency training program. You may ask, is that really needed? Lead 21 and FSLI are great programs and great for developing future leaders, but what about our educators who are the boots on the ground? These courses are developed to address extension educator roles and cover areas that are not traditionally taught within an undergraduate curriculum or even a graduate curriculum in many cases. There would be an experiential component to each of these courses where educators use their own data or situations as part of the learning process. Courses would include areas like facilitation, political effectiveness, research design, evaluation for community-based professionals, communication and civil dialogue, developing compelling impact reports, understanding and applying research to practice, volunteer management, statistical analysis, grant writing, and budget management. These courses would be taught mostly online, but would include 4 days of in-person discussion to build camaraderie and a cohort feel to the courses. I'm developing these courses for my colleagues here in Wisconsin, but I would love to partner with NIFA to think about these offerings in the context of a National Extension Training Center. I would see these courses being part of a stackable certificate program that could also lead to a master's degree in extension education. Having a well-trained workforce, both here in Wisconsin and across the country, will be critical for the important work of NIFA and extension. So to recap, the 3 areas that I highlighted today are capacity funding, programming priorities, and workforce training. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your comments. Okay, so our next scheduled speaker, we were packed this morning and a little bit we have some extra time in the afternoon. So if there is anybody who would like to make comments, please raise your emoji hand. And it looks like we have one of the scheduled speakers, Kathy Bozeman, and then we will continue with the people who have their hands raised. So please feel free to keep your hands up. Kathy, if you're ready.
Perfect, thank you. Good afternoon, I'm Casey Bozeman. I work for the University of Georgia as an Extension 4-H specialist, focusing primarily on our science education programs. And as somebody who is a product of the Extension and 4-H Youth Development Program, both of my grandfathers worked as extension specialists and researchers. I firmly believe in certainly the land grant mission and appreciate the opportunity for USDA NIFA to be able to hear from those of us who do this day-to-day type work. So as a youth development specialist, especially focusing within the science realm, I'm very excited just to share about certainly some visions and ideas where we could collaboratively work together, whether that is across various land grant institutions or certainly receiving more direction, whether that is within financial support, or simply just being able to be that connector at the national level to where we think about engaging young people in science education. One of the things that we have done here very successfully in Georgia has been able to match our 4-H youth with specialists, primarily those working within agriculture and natural resources, to help train the next generation of scientists. We're really pleased because we hear constantly from those specialists that also have a teaching appointment that they're struggling to get students interested and engaged in the hard sciences. And so we see that, of course, across the nation as well when we look at statistics and how many jobs within the STEM fields are going unfilled, particularly those within agriculture, and especially within engineering and agriculture. And so we would love to see more opportunities for there to be collaborative partnerships, certainly funding sources as well, that we can train young people and get them excited about science and technology. I'll tell you, I sometimes think it's full circle in some ways that I never enjoyed science in school, biology and chemistry. I did it and did well, but it just wasn't my thing. But 4-H was, and so 4-H was the place where I learned about animals, I learned about forestry, I learned about wildlife, and then went on and studied those beyond high school and that post-secondary opportunity. Had no idea it was science. And so if we can find ways to get young people engaged to be that pipeline, and we can see the need. So whether that's teaching young people how to use drones for agriculture production. We have trained them in teaching farmers how to calibrate their sprayers to be more efficient. And we have had opportunities for young people to learn about irrigation methods. And so I think that's something that is certainly very valuable and important. We constantly see turnover within extension. And so that happens in the 4-H world, but in the extension service as a whole. And so if there are ways that we can find those opportunities for there to be better support for those 4-H professionals, and in turn, again, those young people that they support and provide those resources, the volunteers that they support, those communities that we support, again, as a whole, to help feed that science pipeline. Then I'm also very honored and blessed to wear another hat that doesn't quite always pay the bills, if you will, but it is a true blessing to serve on our National Association of 4-H Youth Development Professionals, this NAE 4-H YDP national entity. We're very fortunate and blessed that USDA NIFA has a liaison that works with our board, Benita Williams, who is such a true joy. And so I'm honored that we have ways that we are already doing really great work and receiving some of that support there through professional development opportunities, whether those are in person at an annual conference, whether they may be something that occurs on a monthly basis, where our 4-H professionals across the nation can engage in virtual opportunities. There are certain learning groups. So again, thinking back to the sciences, agriculture, the ag literacy groups, science, engineering, and mathematics that exist out there, our camping and environmental education task force. So lots of different groups that are out there that are already addressing this. And again, just to see how we can collectively come together and help feed, if you will, that science pipeline, because we're very excited. And if, obviously, as the future continues to grow, there's going to be challenges that exist that are out there. And how do we feed an increasing global population? How are we wise with the natural resources that take place? So I firmly believe anything we can do to get young people engaged and be that pipeline for success would be very valuable. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Casey, for your comments. Okay, so we have Daryl Huddleston, if you would like to unmute and turn your camera on.
Yes, ma'am. Hello. Thank you for allowing me to speak today. My name is Daryl Huddleston. I'm based in Texas, but I work internationally and around the world. I would just I can't thank the USDA enough for what they do and what they have done and NIFA. But I think in the current time, politics aside, a lot of state budgets and state funding has really dried up. The Texas 4-H department, we rely on a lot of private funding, donor funding, charitable events, fundraisers. And I would just encourage NIFA and the USDA to maybe roll out some more national programs that step outside of politics, because this time of year, Texas, we meet every 2 years in legislature, and it's a free for all right now with bills being filed, and there's nothing for really farmer education. There's nothing for 4-H. There's nothing for FFA. And I think that we do need more of a national program and a national leadership platform. And I think NIFA is the perfect organization to do that, because I have friends in every state that are, farmers. Some say they're big ag. They don't think they're big ag, but they bring the 4-H kids out and they bring the schools out and show them how to farm and how processing is done of farm plants and products, and how soybeans are dried and how corn is harvested with a combine and all these things. But without farmers doing this themselves out of their budget, this would not be done. And I know there's been a lot of farmers on this morning's call and this call, and I thank all you farmers that do that. And please, all the farmers, if you could just really get with NIFA and really advocate for NIFA to have a national program. It's something that we really need. And thank you all so much.
Thank you, Daryl.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, we don't have any other speakers, so we will provide a few minutes. If anybody would like to speak, just raise your emoji hand and we'll call on you in the order that was raised. So remember that participants can also provide written feedback by emailing at nifalistens@usda.gov through 5 p.m. Eastern, November 30th. Okay, we'll wait a few more minutes and see if anybody joins or anybody raises their hand. And then our closing, we will have Dr. Toombs has recorded closing remarks. So we'll wait a few minutes and then we'll see if anybody wants to provide more comments, or we may play the closing remarks. If you would like to provide comments, please enter your name in the chat or raise your emoji hand. Okay, it looks like we do have some speakers that will be scheduled at 4 p.m. That is Eastern time, so 3 p.m. Central time. So we will go ahead and take a break until about, I guess about 10 minutes. We'll take a break and then we will be back. Have a few more speakers for comments, and then we will provide Dr. Toombs' closing remarks. Thank you. So just as a reminder, participants can also provide written feedback by emailing us at nifalistens@usda.gov through 5 p.m. Eastern time, November 30th. And our next speaker is Brent Hales. He's not scheduled for a few more minutes, so I'm not sure if he is in the meeting yet. Okay, so we still have several speakers scheduled to speak. And when they come into the meeting, we will announce them. So those speakers are scheduled in the next 30 minutes. So feel free to take a break, go get some afternoon coffee or tea. And as soon as they are in the meeting, we will unmute them and hear their comments. And hand and offer your comments. It looks like we do have Bernie Wisen. If you would like to make comments and turn your camera on. Okay, not sure if Bernie is on or if he may be having some technical issues. Okay, so Bernie, if you are on and having some technical issues, please stay with us and just come back on when you're ready. And it looks like Daryl Huddles has his hand raised. Daryl, would you like to make...
Bernie is ready.
Bernie is ready, okay. We are
And Donna,
waiting.
I'm sorry, I did not hear what you just said.
Oh, Bernie, I'm so sorry. Okay.
Oh, no,
Can you hear me now?
I can.
Wonderful. Okay. So please feel free to make your comments and you have 5 minutes. Thank you so much.
I doubt I'm going to take 5 minutes, but I want to thank everyone for the opportunity. So I'm Bernie Wiesen. I'm with Cornell Cooperative Extension of Rensselaer County. Primarily my role in extension is I'm an executive director for Association Upstate New York. I'm also the president-elect for the National Association of Extension for Youth Development Professionals. And I'm happy to provide a little input today in regards to the value of NIFA and helping strengthen those of us out in the field in terms of preparing the next generation for agriculture jobs, agriculture research, and helping meet the needs of our changing trends in agriculture and other areas of STEM. I just would like to mention that my experiences as an educator, there have been obviously a great deal of changes in terms of our variety of programs that we offer and the different types of audiences that we are reaching in current times. I would say that one of the strong needs of folks out in the counties and boots on the ground is going to be constantly having resources for updating curriculum, for trainings to help increase the capacity of our educators to be impactful using research-based materials, and also having opportunities to participate in research. I am happy to say that the National Association of Extension for Youth Development Professionals is focusing completely on professional development for roughly 4,000 individuals who have appointments in working with youth in all capacities across the country. We do provide a lot of in-service opportunities for those association members, and I'm going to say that it's such a great value for your investment for those who may not be members yet. This past year, we offered nearly 100 different types of in-services, helping increase capacity of our educators out there and those youth development professionals. Additionally, we have a hand in supporting the Journal of Youth Development and also support the Journal of Extension. So we're pretty embedded in trying to increase the skill set and the knowledge base for educators everywhere. And for moving into the future, NIFA does play a major role in this for all of us. And I would say that continuing to invest in research, continuing to invest in projects that increase capacity and also target those life skills and uniquenesses that we see in different industries and primarily in the ag industry for our youth. We're very proud to say that we've seen many transitions from youth starting out in programs that may have been after school. They may have been school enrichment, seeing them transition into selecting career paths that have definitely been in alignment with NIFA and the outcomes they're hoping for. So I would say that in moving into the future, continued funding for training and research to help increase the capacity and reach for our youth, who will obviously be filling the roles of whatever career paths are necessary in agriculture.
Okay, thank you so much for your comments and for being here today.
I would suspect my comments aren't any different than many others that probably have joined and participated and provided input.
It has been a great session so far. Okay, it looks like we have Brent Hills here. And Brent, if you're ready to speak and turn on your camera and unmute.
All right, thank you so much for enabling me to join today. My name is Brent Hales and I am the Associate Dean and Director of Penn State Extension. Penn State Extension has been around for over a century and has been a source of science and research-based education and training across Pennsylvania's communities with regards to agriculture, youth development, family development, and certainly sustainability across the Commonwealth. And we do operate in all 67 counties of Pennsylvania. Our mission is to develop and deliver the highest quality of educational programming based on unbiased information that emerges from our research. And we work with stakeholders and partners as we develop our programs to ensure that we're developing programs and courses that are both wanted and needed. And we deliver our programs how, where, and when people want it. And that's both face-to-face and online. There was a time when Extension was the purveyor of all knowledge with regards to agriculture in Pennsylvania, but that is no longer the case. We are in competition from entities outside of Pennsylvania, both public and private, as well as from a growing cadre of universities that are developing agriculture and outreach programs. About 5 years ago, the College and Extension developed an online platform for delivering our programs. And we've seen the return on investment of those efforts with regards to COVID, where in 2019, we had 30,000 registrants to our webinars and programs, whereas in 2020, we had 613,000 online registrants to our programs and webinars. We've doubled the number of those courses, and this has been in collaboration with our partners, our stakeholders, and our funders. I am pleased today to take a chance to thank NIFA for its investments in cooperative extension, both nationally as well as here in Pennsylvania. I serve on the Extension Committee on Organization and Policy as a board member, but also the chair of the program committee. And in that role, or in those roles, have a broader view of cooperative extension nationally. And I think it's important that we point out the impact of capacity funds at the local, state, and federal levels that enable us to partner and work across state lines when there are so many incentives not to do so. It is those collaborations across the state lines that enable us to say, yes, we are cooperative extension as a whole. And our return on investment for the dollars, for the resources that we receive from the federal government via USDA and our other funders, we can tie directly back to the impact on our communities, on our regions, states, and across the nation. It's also important to point out the impact that partnerships with other federal agencies, as well as other non-governmental organizations such as the Extension Foundation, have in the future of cooperative extension nationally. So for the future of USDA NIFA, it's important that we focus on capacity funding, and as NIFA being a conduit for funding from other federal agencies. Additionally, engaging with states and systems in defining and redefining what cooperative extension will look like across the decades moving forward, as well as building the capacity of the state leaders to respond to crises such as high-path avian influenza, obviously economic and other agricultural crises, but also, and more importantly, to ensure the sovereignty and the stability of our food and ag systems, both in our rural and our urban and truly our suburban communities. It is that role that we bring and we must maintain as cooperative extension moving forward. I look forward to engaging with, and I'm committed to, as we all are as extension directors, moving the system of cooperative extension forward. And I appreciate the time and the ability to add my input.
Thank you, Brent, for your comments. Okay, it looks like our next speaker is Bridget Mintz. Bridget, if you are here, if you can turn your camera on and unmute.
Yes, hello, thank you.
Welcome.
I'm Bridget Mintz. I'm an assistant professor at Oregon State University, but today I'm representing the National Association of Plant Breeders as the chair of the advocacy committee. And I just want to thank everyone for providing this opportunity to give feedback. So NAPB advocates for increased support for cultivar development, plant breeding education, and plant germplasm resources. So some of the priorities that the advocacy committee has are supporting increased long-term funding for cultivar development and plant breeding research, including conservation and pre-breeding in the public sector through USDA competitive grants and capacity funds. And we believe that a portfolio of funding mechanisms is essential that are stakeholder driven and accountable to provide recruitment and training for K-12 undergrad and graduate students, as well as cross-cutting grants that include national, international, and across technology platforms and funding agencies. NAPB supports increased support for plant breeding education and graduate student training, including partnerships that allow for experiential learning for undergraduates, graduate students, and postdocs. NAPB supports the National Plant Germplasm System and is concerned about genetic vulnerability, the narrowing of the genetic base, and continued genetic gain. We need to sustain and support the utilization of genetic resources. Additionally, NAPB supports plant breeding and seed saving efforts at different scales and in different systems, including small seed companies, indigenous seed keepers, and those breeding for organic and sustainable systems. We encourage NIFA to support a broad and diverse breeding and seed system by increasing funding to these groups. The rationale behind all of our priorities is that public sector plant breeding has contributed significantly to increases in crop productivity over the past century. Public sector cultivar development efforts continue to be critical to meeting regional agricultural needs. An important role of the public sector is to train future plant breeders and leaders in agriculture. A $50 million investment per year in grants to support public sector development would support approximately 150 graduate students in plant breeding each year. The public sector is also critical to long-range research priorities, such as the incorporation of genetic diversity for critical traits into more elite germplasm that is readily accessible to breeding programs. NIPB is a membership-based organization of just over 600 members that represent public sector plant breeders and plant breeders in industries across the country and going out now into international breeders. We thank you for your time and appreciate the ability to give comments.
Thank you, Bridget.
Ahead of time. So thank you.
Okay, it looks like our next speaker is Mike Boehm. Mike, if you're ready, if you want to unmute and turn your camera on.
Yeah, thanks, Donna. Good to go? Yep, thanks. My name's Mike Boehm, and I am the Harlan Vice Chancellor for the Institute of Agriculture and Natural Resources at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln. And I also have the privilege of serving as the Vice President for Ag and Natural Resources for the University of Nebraska system. Thank you very much to the National Institute for Food and Agriculture for hosting this listening session. UNL is our state's flagship land-grant institution, a proud member of the Big Ten Academic and Athletic Conference, as well as the Association of Public and Land-Grant Universities. Nebraska is an R1 research institution with annual research expenditures exceeding $320 million. IENR scientists and engineers account for roughly 46% of this annual expenditure, and our externally sponsored research within the Institute accounts for nearly half of that. IENR is focused on innovating new ways to ensure a safe, nutritious, and abundant food supply to an ever-expanding global population while protecting the environment and profitability for our farmers and ranchers. Nebraska is home to the nation's third largest ag economy and it is a natural resources hub spanning 7 agroecological zones that support a broad range of agricultural and specialty crops, forage, and livestock production systems. UNL Innovation in Research and Advanced Technology, Teaching, and Extension places Nebraska on the leading edge of food, fuel, feed, and fiber production, thinking about this in an environmentally friendly way, as well as thinking about human nutrition. Our researchers work hand in glove with Nebraska's 46,000 farmers and ranchers, and UNL's recommendations to NIFA reflect what we're hearing directly from these key agricultural stakeholders. The U.S. is at a critical juncture in advancing precision and digital agriculture technology and related artificial intelligence, and I commend USDA's efforts in establishing a new National Center for Resilient and Regenerative Precision Agriculture in Lincoln. This facility, while located in Lincoln, is a national network, a hub comprised of USDA and land-grant universities, all committed to rapidly advancing precision and digital agriculture. Given that precision agriculture relies heavily on on-farm data, we believe NIFA should continue its investment in the National Ag Producers Data Cooperative, a project that is currently developing a national framework to create a neutral and data-secure repository where producers, small businesses, land-grant universities, and not-for-profit organizations can store, share, visualize, and use the ever-growing data generated by our farmers and ranches through precision tech. In the next 15 to 20 years, U.S. agriculture will likely transition from large diesel-powered tractors and implements to a collection of highly networked, battery-powered, smaller autonomous robots, drones, and sensors. Networks of these machines will generate enormous quantities of data that will require tremendous computing power. Various challenges will be presented with this equipment, from compatibility to security of data to cyber physical security and protection against bad actors interested in targeted violence against America's farms, ranches, and processors. NIFA should consider how to safeguard the nation's food supply as these technical changes significantly alter our current farming practices. NIFA should also prioritize solutions that account for and help mitigate impacts of climate change. According to the UNL-based National Drought Monitor, 63% of the lower 48 states are currently experiencing drought conditions, affecting nearly 393 million acres of cropland and nearly 135 million Americans. While drought is undoubtedly straining the agricultural community, its long-term impact on global food security is yet unknown. Similarly, NIFA should consider its three-pronged approach for climate-smart ag priorities, filling in knowledge gaps and modeling carbon capture and carbon markets, fostering grassroots climate change innovations in farming and forest ecosystem management, and ensuring strong cooperation between USDA's regional climate hubs and university cooperative extension services. Thank you very much for your time today and the opportunity to comment on NIFA's science priorities. We greatly appreciate your leadership and support of all that you do.
Thank you, Mike, for your comments. Okay, it looks like our next speaker is Kitty Cardwell. Kitty, if you would like to come off of mute and turn your camera on, if she is still here.
I'm still here, thank you. It's nice to see everybody and that your listening session seems to be so successful. This is very exciting. I'm Kitty Cardwell. I'm a professor in the Institute of Biosecurity and Microbial Forensics at Oklahoma State University. And I'm here today to encourage ongoing AFRI contribution to tactical sciences and biosecurity. We have had one full grant already, a seed grant in the Diagnostic Assay Laboratory Network, and we have another grant now, the Diagnostic Assay Validation Network. We have had thousands of scientist hours of input into what is needed for diagnostics for biosecurity in the United States. And this is what supports the safety of the agriculture in the US and our trade missions. So I have a laundry list of research language that we would really like to see. But first of all, we want to make sure that there is ongoing support in AFRI for the tactical sciences and biosecurity, because there's so much that still needs to be done. Just this laundry list, we really need a point of concern rapid diagnostics for field screenings. We need to streamline RNA extraction technologies. Right now, it takes almost a day to do a good RNA extraction, and RNA viruses are really hard to get to with the current practices. And we think that it will be possible to make those extraction processes easier, faster. We need databases of virus oligos for what we call TASPERT. It's target-specific reverse transcriptase. This is something that we can insert into DNA nucleic acid extraction technologies to pre-amplify what you're looking for, especially if it's likely to be in low titer. We need a catalog or a database of informative virus sequences by genus. We really don't have this kind of thing cataloged at this point, and it's a huge lack, and it really slows down development of diagnostic assays and a validation of those assays. We need synthetic references and internal controls and funding to build reference collections and internal controls for diagnostic assays and for validation. Artificial intelligence, if you could get language in about AI, at least then maybe perhaps we could pull AI specialists into the diagnostic sciences. And we'd like to have mutation prediction algorithms, and this is entirely possible. We know in viruses they change rapidly, and we believe that with AI we should be able to predict how and when a virus strain is likely to emerge, and it will make emerging pathogens easier for us to prepare for. So this is a list of specific research needs. The needs of the sector of biosecurity diagnostics are extensive. It's been underfunded for many, many years. We need a pipeline of specialized practitioners that can build into the biosecurity system for years to come. I know APHIS is crying for people. We need to be able to train people into biosecurity at the universities that do that. And there are a number of them around the country. Oklahoma State, Nebraska, Kansas all have biosecurity programs. So we think that NIFA holds this need. Biosecurity or American agriculture is in the NIFA remit. And therefore, we thank you for supporting the work that has begun in this area. And we strongly encourage you to keep it going for years to come, because that's how long it's going to take us to really catch up with what we need to do in diagnostics and biosecurity. That's all I have to say. Thank you. Thank you for the
Thank you,
chance.
Kitty. Thank you. We appreciate your comments. Okay, I believe Daryl Huddleston is next. Daryl, if you would like to come off of mute.
Okay, thank you so much. I will give my normal advocacy speech. My name is Daryl Huddleston. I'm from Texas. I do speak for people that cannot speak, and for those that are afraid to speak. I know there's a lot of participants on this call and everybody gets stage fright. A very near and dear person in my life sent me something to read and to say today regarding food security, you know, with USDA and NIFA and the support for farming in the US. You know, the farmers, big ag is kind of under attack from some areas of the society based on, you know, fertilizer runoff and things like that. Things we just didn't know 30 years ago, we know now with modern science. And I would just encourage you to keep that up, NIFA and USDA. But I will read now what this lady sent me is, please don't make us food dependent on other countries. It may be cheaper now, but it will cost us in the long run later on. We need to worry about feeding rural families, and we need to help all farmers. And could we please increase the focus on inner city gardens, rooftop gardens, and bringing fresh fruits and vegetables to cities? This is a very near and dear calling to her heart, and she really supports this. She's boots on the ground advocate. She's out in all major cities across Texas and across the country to really bring food security to inner city people, to small farmers, to small towns. A lot of industrial towns, you know, once the companies left, when things were offshore, the towns are kind of desolate now, and food prices are high. Inflation is not helping. Some people have to decide whether they can buy food or keep the lights on, and it's getting cold weather now, and these problems get exacerbated. And I would just like to thank all the researchers on the call today, all the extension agents. You ladies and gentlemen are amazing. The lady from Cornell, Bernie, you're awesome. I can't thank Cornell enough for all the programs you guys have. And just would like to encourage NIFA to keep the funding going, keep the programs going, keep the support going, because with state politics and politics being what they are, and a lot of state budgets are based on these politics, we really rely on NIFA and the USDA to have some kind of national leadership and national support that is unwavering and not based on politics. And I know politics affects a national level too, but most of the federal agencies are able to maintain from year to year and cycle to cycle, and to maintain their programs and to maintain their funding, and to really look at the new things that have been brought up, the tech in ag and science in ag and engineering in ag. And I am a field engineer, and I work in ag and I work in manufacturing, and I can see the crossover now, and I work in the crossover now, and we're better at soil testing, and we're better at nutrient input to the farms to save the farmer money and to not have the runoff issues that are causing issues downstream in the waterways, to keep farmers out of those conversations, because the farmers need to focus on farming and not so much defending their right to farm based on what someone else is complaining about downriver. And that's, again, is where we need USDA and NIFA support to keep the conversation focused on real science and real engineering and real data, just to cut down on some of the noise so that the farmers can really focus on what they do, and that's feeding America. And again, I cannot thank NIFA enough for the things you do. I'm engaged with a lot of extension agents in Texas. Most of them are based through Texas A&M. Some of them are county. It's scattered the way that they operate. There's really not a connection some of the extension agents in Texas don't even know each other because Texas is massive with 254 counties. And I keep hearing about a national database and a national clearinghouse, and I really support that so that we can really keep these agents connected and these service workers connected and these universities connected. Because the more data that's open and accessible is just faster response time, less research. Sometimes I work for an independent research organization myself, and sometimes we do research and then we found out someone has already done it and we wasted 3 months on something. If we would have just known about sooner or had somewhere to go to find it sooner, we could have saved 3 months and spent 3 months researching something else. The group that I work with, we're doing research on climate mitigation strategies. I put the link in the chat. You can reach out to us. We work with concrete, with manufacturing, with automobiles, with manufacturing, with fuels, with everybody to really implement carbon avoidance, carbon sequestration, and work on national policy and advocating even at the local level. It's all encompassing what we do. And I support all the people, the boots on the ground and all the extension agents. And thank you, NIFA.
Thank you, Daryl, for your comments. Okay, we are going to move on to another moderator now. So I will let her share her screen, and thank you all for your comments.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rebecca Hansen, and I will be your moderator for the next 30 minutes. As a reminder, please keep your camera off unless you are speaking. This listening session is for NIFA to hear your top priorities, and given each speaker is limited to 5 minutes, we invite you to send your full written comments directly to NIFA at nifalistens@usa.gov. For our scheduled speakers, again, you will have a total of 5 minutes, and the timer will start when I introduce you. And to make sure that everyone can be heard in a timely fashion, the speaker will be muted after 5 minutes. So I'm going to share my screen. Oops, sorry. Would someone be able to share their screen with the timer, please?
Yeah, Rebecca, we won't be able to share both, but if you click
That's
on
fine.
share and then click on window, first bring your timer up on your computer, and then you can share window and choose your clock. Maybe I can go ahead.
Okay, there we go. Can we see that?
There we go. Okay.
Oops. Not sure why it's not letting me click that. Sorry, folks.
Donna, can you just share your screen with the timer?
Yes. So Rebecca, if you'll hit unshare, I'll share my screen.
What's that? Sorry, say that again.
If you want to quit sharing, I'll share my timer.
Perfect. Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. And our next speaker will be Caitlin Youngquist. Caitlin, if you're available, you can go ahead and unmute yourself and go ahead and take your video as well.
Thank you. My name is Caitlin Youngquist, University of Wyoming Extension educator, focused on soil and natural resources, and also do a fair amount of work with food security in the state. And I'm also the state coordinator for the Wyoming SARE program, Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education. And I really would like to speak to the importance and the impact of the farmer-led research programs that SARE does so well, and to continue funding that good work. But the farmer-led research, it's very, very high impact in my experience with it, with a very low overhead compared to academic academic research. And so in extension, we do a fair amount of academic and farmer-led research, and having pools of money that are very specifically intended to go directly to producers for doing the research they want to do on the ground is very high impact work with a low overhead in my experience. We want to support producers who want to take risks and try new things and share their findings with their peers. And so the idea, again, is that we can help producers who want to solve problems, increase their capacity, reduce their inputs, become more profitable and sustainable. And as the previous speaker said, we really need to remember to include the urban and the rural in that, whether we call them community farms or community gardens, these urban food producing folks is really, really important. The other thing that I think is very important to include, continue to support, is the professional development opportunities for producers, right? So how do we, Extension can provide a lot of that. Extension has a lot of really good work on the ground, but we have limited capacity. And so how can we help producers get the training they need to increase their profitability, reduce their inputs, adapt to the changing pressures of the economy and what they're growing, and regulatory pressures, continuing to produce food and feed people with less inputs while protecting the soil and water. So again, we need to have farmer-led research, and we really need professional development opportunities for producers to increase their capacity and increase their ability to deal with stress and different challenges. And I do a lot of work also with food security in the state. I work with the Wyoming Hunger Initiative, which is the First Lady's initiative in Wyoming. And we're looking directly at how do we get the food to people that need it. And if we tie that into agriculture, it's a lot more than just growing more food. While growing more food is important, it's really only one small part of the picture, I think. And what we've really seen here is that food prep at home is critical, and there's time and skills required to do that, and the community support required to do that. And I know we have SNAP Ed funding and USDA funding for SNAP Ed, and I understand that, but that's very limited. That's tied to folks who qualify for SNAP benefits, but that's very limited, and that's not enough is what we're seeing. So 50 years ago, they were called home and demonstration agents in Extension. Now we call them food safety or consumer sciences or community health. It's not very glamorous, but boy, is it really, really important to help people understand not only do we just need to grow more food in these communities and address the ability to purchase more fresh fruits and vegetables, but that doesn't really get it all the way to the plate and into people's diets and addressing chronic disease and childhood obesity and all these other important issues. And so there's a big disconnect, I think, there between growing the food and getting it into people's diets. And I think it's time to really not lose sight of what that older model was of people helping, what was called the home demonstration agents, now called food safety or nutrition, or helping people understand how to use that food and how to cook it themselves. And again, supporting the farmers to get the research they need done on the ground, and supporting Extension, as the previous speaker said, with the boots on the ground, the folks in the community who know those needs and can address those needs, and again, can do it efficiently with relatively low overhead. So just a push for Extension and a push for farmer-led research. Thank you.
Thank you, Caitlin. And at this time, we have some open space. So if there's anyone who would like to speak that has not signed up yet, please raise your emoji hands and we will call on you in that order. Just give it one more minute. Alrighty, so with that, this concludes our NIFA listening session. We want to thank you very much for your participation and remind you that you can still give feedback through the NIFA Listens at USDA.gov through 5 p.m. Eastern Time through November 30th. And we will now close with remarks from Acting NIFA Director Dion Toombs. Thank you.
for your, hello again. I want to thank each of you for your valuable feedback. I hope you found this opportunity as valuable as did we here at NIFA. Like I said at the beginning of our time together, your participation in today's session is a testament to our shared commitment toward advancing agricultural research, education, and extension. I want to ensure that the feedback you have provided today will not go unused, but will be a vital component as we develop NIFA's roadmap forward. Along those lines, I am pleased to share with you that our new NIFA strategic plan for 2022 to 2026 will be available on our website in a couple of weeks. This plan will serve as our roadmap to shape our decision-making and effectively and efficiently accomplish our critical priorities. In developing this strategic plan, we considered feedback from a wide range of external stakeholders, land-grant universities, other partners, and our dedicated employees through listening sessions like this one, focus groups, and surveys. This plan reflects the tremendous sharing of information, ideas, and thoughts. We regularly revisit and update the plan based on progress and input to meet evolving demands, new and important challenges. This plan is a living document. Input like what you have shared in our session today, and any additional feedback you provide after reviewing the plan will be considered as we make necessary adjustments to our goals. We look forward to continued partnership to further strengthen research, education, and extension to best serve agriculture, communities, and society. Once again, I thank you all for joining us today and for sharing your insights.